Dear friends, in this course on social welfare and social legislation, we are going to talk in the next two lectures about the issues related to the grave problem of child labour. Child labour is a reflection of the process of deprivation and exploitation. In India, over 50% of children below the age of 14 years are not enrolled in schools. Circumstances often prevent these children from getting a sound education. Unfortunately, children are forced to take up employment in factories and in agriculture as bonded labourers. They are catapulted into a vicious cycle. Extreme exploitation and deprivation leaves everlasting scars on the psyche of these children. This lecture examines the conceptual, definitional and causal issues relating to child labour. It also discusses the views held by three schools of thought on the definition and extent of child labour, as well as sustainable solutions that can be effectively implemented to fight this vicious cycle. While concluding, we will analyze a few steps which can be taken to improve the conditions which exist regarding child labour. To begin with our discussion and lecture on child labour, let us look at a quote by Justice P. N. Bhagwati. A child is born. It is a soul with a being, a nature and capacity of its own, who must be helped to find those capacities, to grow into their maturity, into a fullness of physical and vital energy and the utmost breadth, depth and height of its emotional, intellectual and spiritual being. The above description of the excitement and joy associated with the birth of a child was given by Justice P. N. Bhagwati in a judgment on the international adoption of children in 1985. In Indian society, the birth of a child is considered to be a moment of great joy for the family. As the child grows up, he or she is subjected to ruthless exploitation and becomes a victim of gender and caste-based discrimination. With credible estimates ranging from 60 to 115 million, India has the largest number of working children in the world. They work in the heat of stone quarries, sweat in the fields 16 hours a day, pick up rags in city streets or hide away as domestic servants, enduring miseries and difficulties. Although child labour is not a new problem, the issue of child labour is assumed new forms as global and social realities underwent changes. Children between the age groups of 6 to 14 years form a vulnerable section of society. Adverse economic conditions force children to take to employment in factories and industries. A large percentage of children in rural areas are also engaged in agricultural and allied activities. In fact, according to the International Labour Organization's new report on child labour, the number of children working in agriculture is nearly 10 times that of the number employed in factory work such as garment manufacturing and carpet weaving. Agricultural child labourers are subject to long, strenuous working hours ranging from 9 to 13 hours per day. It is believed that the carpet industry employs over 30,000 child labourers. Most of these children are in bondage. The murder of Iqbal Masin, a child rights activist, had caused great international concern for the child labourers employed in the carpet weaving industry. There have been a number of initiatives taken by the NGOs and international organizations such as UNICEF and International Labour Organization towards improving the lot of children working in hazardous conditions. Rehabilitative measures have been taken to ensure the well-being of working children. Proper facilities in the form of high standard of primary education and adequate nutrition must be provided to children to ensure that they integrate with the rest of the society and lead normal, healthy lives. Recounting the views put forth by Justice P. N. Bhagwati, all children must be provided with adequate opportunities to develop their being and live like educated, responsible citizens. The conceptual and definitional issues relating to child labour will be analysed in the remaining part of the lecture. A close examination of the causal factors leading to employment of children in hazardous employment will also be undertaken. There have been varying perspectives on the issues of definition of child labour. Out of these, three prominent schools of thought on this issue would be analysed by us in the course of this lecture. Individual and societal concerns have been addressed in the next part of these two lectures. The issue of child labour would be studied from the perspectives of the attitude towards employers, child labourers and their families to gain a better understanding of the circumstances and conditions of employment in order to make recommendations for improving their lot, and so that we can become sensitized and become better citizens, better social workers, or better welfare functionaries to help these children attain the fullest of maturity and wisdom. Let us now look at certain issues relating to child labour. Let us begin with certain conceptual issues. Child labourers refer to that section of the child population who are employed in gainful employment which is detrimental to their health and deprives them of the opportunity to develop. Child labour has assumed the character of a social problem which results in retardation and impoverishment of the growth and evolution of child victims. Furthermore, child labour is injurious to the physical, psychological, mental, moral and social growth of child labourers. The lack of education and proper nutrition affects working children to such a large degree that when they cross the threshold of childhood, they become bereft of strength and energy to become productive and responsible adults. Their childhood is taken, but that's not the only thing which is taken. Their childhood is lost and with it is lost all possibility of leading a meaningful adult life. Therefore, it becomes clear to us that the issues relating to child labour are not merely issues which relate to people who are at a young stage of their life. Child labour makes it impossible for individuals to lead a meaningful and healthy life in the larger scheme of an individual's life. Therefore, it is a problem which impacts not a certain section of the society, but the whole length and breadth of societal existence. Let us now look at certain definitional issues relating to child labour. One of the most daunting tasks relating to the investigation of the problem of child labour is the absence of a comprehensive definition that accurately describes an instance of child labour. There have been wide varying perceptions about the definitions of child labour. However, the three most prominent schools of thought will be analysed by us in this lecture. First, the first school of thought holds that education is the fundamental right of every child between the ages of 6 and 14 years and believes in the absolute eradication of any form of child labour. The second school of thought suggests that a dual approach of prohibition and regulation rather than complete eradication of child labour should be adopted. The third school of thought takes a substantially different view on the issue of child labour. It believes in allowing children themselves to decide whether they want to work or acquire an education. At the same time, it advocates protection of child rights and prevention of exploitation of children. You can see that these three approaches take three different positions on what a child should be doing when that child is between the ages of 6 to 14. These three approaches differ in the way childhood is conceptualized. In the first approach, childhood is conceptualized as a period of pure learning. In the second approach, a mixture of learning and work is seen as benefiting or befitting a child. In the third approach, the decision as to whether one is to learn or to work is supposed to lie with the child itself. Let us now look at certain gender issues related to the problem of child labour. A very significant aspect of this discussion is the social perception of the female child in the context of child labour. Girls, from the time of their birth, are viewed as a positive burden on the family in much of the Indian society. The perception that the ultimate destination for the girl child is marriage often determines the treatment meted out to her. She is denied the opportunity of basic education and adequate nutrition. Studies indicate that the burden of household duties often falls on the female child. Review of literature also indicates a strong sex typing of roles as regards the male and female children. A large section of the female working population is engaged in domestic functions such as looking after siblings, cooking and cleaning. In rural areas, the younger girl children are engaged in menial jobs like carrying pots on their heads, whereas the older children accompany their parents to fields in order to help them in carrying out agricultural activities. In urban areas, a large number of girls are employed in domestic service, rag picking, newspaper vending and the carpet industry. for several social and cultural reasons. The girl child is undervalued by her parents. Due to lack of skills and education, the girl child is easily exploited by her employers. The exploited girl child grows up to be an exploited woman. It becomes almost impossible to break this vicious cycle. But for improving the lot of the girl child by providing them with basic skills and opportunities. Let us now look at certain causes and contributory factors to child labor. An analysis of the causal factors indicates that the incidence of child labor is directly related to poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, and employment of labor force in agriculture. The incidence of child labor shares a negative relationship with per capita income, infrastructure development, and position of women in society. It is very important to adopt a holistic approach in critiquing the often cited reasons for child labor by examining numerous reasons given by the NGOs, the government, as well as the employers. The first such reason is poverty. A large number of families in our country suffer from the problem of acute poverty and insufficient support systems, as a result of which parents are unable to provide adequate care to their children. Even though children are very poorly paid, they are, in developing countries, substantial contributors to the low family income. An inadequate government-sponsored social security scheme in India and an ever-increasing adult unemployment rate contributes to the increase in child labor. Although, according to most economic studies, poverty is the cause of child labor, one branch of literature emphasizes the reverse. According to a few economists, some countries keep themselves poor by allowing child labor to continue. Child labor is viewed to be the cause of poverty. The rationale supporting this proposition is that children who start working at the age of 12 lose out on education and skills they could have acquired. This prevents countries from developing their human resources. The employment of children in industries also depresses wages for the adults. This vicious cycle continues. Now let us look at the issue of bonded child labor. Bonded child labor refers to a phenomenon of children working in servitude in order to pay off debts. The creditors or money lenders offer money to the destitute parents in an effort to secure the employment of these children at much cheaper rates. These children are made to work long hours under strenuous conditions over a long period in an attempt to clear the debt. They are subject to physical, mental, and sexual exploitation. As they reach maturity, they may be released by their bond masters and replaced by a younger sibling. In spite of legal and constitutional provisions, the problem of bonded child labor persists in modern society. The other issue is the lack of educational facilities. This is considered to be one of the major factors responsible for the increasing rate of child labor. It can be viewed as a consequence of child labor too. Poverty, child labor, and lack of education form a vicious cycle from which it is almost impossible to break away. It would be helpful to examine the various factors that lead to lack of adequate educational facilities itself. A few of these are poor infrastructural facilities, especially in rural areas. Secondly, children who come from a socio-economically backward background are often exposed to ill treatment by teachers. There have been instances of sexual abuse of students by teachers, especially girls. Thirdly, the books and uniforms are highly priced, making it unaffordable for below poverty line families to send their children to schools. Fourthly, due to substandard quality of education offered by schools, parents often do not see any utility in sending their children to school. They prefer to employ their children in menial labor in order to supplement the family income. Since parents are uneducated themselves, they do not understand the advantages of sending their children to school. Reverting to our discussions on issues causing child labor, the next issue is population. In recent years, there has been a population explosion. Increasing family size, coupled with the problem of lack of resources, forces young children to take to employment. The lack of government policies and awareness campaigns also aggravates this problem. The next issue is the advent of globalization. The issue of child labor acquired a new meaning and significance in the context of contemporary competitiveness. Due to the integration of national economy with the world economy and rapid industrialization, a number of multinationals have moved into the country in order to employ cheap and effective labor. This phenomena has encouraged the employment of young children in factories under hazardous conditions. Improper implementation of labor laws and lack of policies has only worsened the situation of child labor. Migration. Families often leave their villages and come to towns in search of job opportunities. Lack of opportunities results in an increase in poverty in urban areas. Situations of extreme poverty force children to undertake employment in order to support their families. Furthermore, disintegration of families forces children to go to the streets or join the workforce in order to earn a living. Caste-based discrimination. Among the most vulnerable sections of society are the Dalits and Adivasis. They are mainly employed in agriculture as laborers or small farmers. As per the National Sample Survey, approximately 48% of the Dalit population and 51% of the Adivasi fall officially below the poverty line. A considerable number of child laborers come from communities which are in the lower rungs of our traditional caste-based social hierarchy. A bulk of laborers employed in the carpet industry, bangle making, slate, gemstone polishing, and tea plantations belong to backward classes and minority communities. The fact that child laborers hail from these communities reflects the complexity of the issue of child labor. Now we are done looking at the standard approaches to child labor, some of the causes behind child labor, and some understanding of the special dimension of gender-related child problems. We know that these problems are probably amongst the gravest threat to our continuation and growth as a prospering society and a prospering nation. We need to address these issues post haste and in the most efficient manner so that the greatest benefits can accrue to the children of India.